Gentlemen, welcome to Sunday Live. David Makali with us, as always, and Kipchumba Murkomen. Really a very weighty issue this week, and how this cabinet reshuffle will affect the race to State House. Do you even believe that it was orchestrated with that whole picture in mind, that, you know, the road to State House? Let me start with you, David.
It's obvious that this reshuffle was done with an eye on positioning certain individuals on the highway to State House and removing any obstacles that have been pending. There's no doubt that the major beneficiary of this reshuffle is Uhuru Kenyatta. To a smaller extent, the G7 alliance and therefore William Ruto to some point. But also William Ruto lost his status by the elevation of Eugene to a ministerial position. So you have Eugene now talking as an equal, if not even a superior, to Ruto in that alliance. Uhuru is in government as deputy prime minister, even though it's ministerial position in that portfolio. But the whole arrangement and the changes that were made were choreographed to position the G7 on a straight road, remove some of the obstacles, and face the ICC problems squarely. And we expect to see a couple of more developments following the appointment of Eugene. Okay,
before I come to you, Kipchumba, the impact and purpose of the Balala removal from cabinet.
Balala removal was an act of Raila Odinga trying to cure something that has been a sore in his party. Balala has been attacking him repeatedly. He fell out with him the last 2 years. He doesn't fraternize with the ODM party nationally, as well as at the coast where he's supposed to be the point man. So he was inconsequential in Raila's game plan. And I think Raila decided that it's time to, deal with it once and for all in good time, so he can repair the damage.
So it's all about politics.
Politics, nothing else.
Kipchumba, your thoughts?
I agree with Makali that on the side of PNU, it's almost like the script in terms of the changes was done by Uhuru Kenyatta and just given to the president to read. Because if you look at the Foreign Affairs Minister and the Minister of Justice, those are people who are very close to Uhuru. But I don't agree on the issue of Eugene Wamalwa being superior in any way. I think that we have seen so many other ministers of the same, they are even holding higher portfolio, but all the time they are inferior to the politicians that are basically seen to be having the numbers. So I don't think in any way it threatens the position of William Ruto, because he has... I think one of the things that people don't understand in the relationship of Uhuru Kenyatta and William Ruto is that their constituents are determined to ensure that all of them are in the ballot box, so that it is not expected that William was going to play second fiddle to Uhuru, even if he wanted himself, because he's under pressure from the voters that he must be in the ballot box. So Eugene coming in is, for me, a scheme determined to derail the Raila's ascendance to power, but also to tell Mudavadi, if you don't make a decision, there is someone from Western who can replace you. And so I think it will work to push, most likely, Honorable Mudavadi to basically be in the ballot box, because then being a running mate will not be a fancy thing. If Eugene is going to be running mate of Uhuru, then that position, the Western voters will say that is too junior, you must be in the ballot box. But on the other side of ODM, I think that one of the things that we are now seeing is the argument that the Pentagon, the 5 people who are in the Pentagon, were basically hired soldiers, what they call auxiliaries, working for Raila Odinga. And they say that if they don't succeed in doing their work, you either bring them down or you draft them to assist you in the next fight. It looked like the other 5 were unable to continue working with the Prime Minister. And I think if this continues, if the trend continues, I see Mudavadi, on his way out. If that happens, then one thing Raila will have lost is his ability to be able to keep a team. But if he succeeds and the others remain, then perhaps he can still move on.
David, let me come to you on that, and also as you comment, the relevance of this reshuffle in view of the ICC process.
Yeah. Well, let me just, a point of difference between me and Murkomen on the Eugene's elevation. There is, within G7, there is a clear recognition that there are two principles. Uhuru regards himself as a principal and Ruto, and none of them wants to play second fiddle to the other. in terms of the rise to State House. So each of them is trying to cultivate a constituency outside each of these two, blocks, Rutos and Uhurus. So Uhuru is looking into Western and seeing the potential that he can get a running mate in the name of Eugene Wamalwa, and to capture that, partial Luhya vote. Of course, William is, is looking into the coast, where he has, strategically been angling Makwere to tap in the rest that, is going to happen, because each of them definitely, as Murkomen says, has to be on the ticket to make sense to their communities. In terms of the ICC, Eugene is being positioned here as the workman, Mr. Fix-It, because he's one of us. He'll be in there. He'll be in the committee that is dealing with the ICC, the cabinet committee. He is going to be the justice minister, who is going to be in charge of legislation and any processes, legal processes, whether it's formation of a local tribunal. So he's basically going to be in there as the spanner boy to fix things in favor of the G7. Something Mutula would never have been able to. He would never have agreed to positions that he, in principle, was not comfortable with. Let me come to the international legal implications of some of the things Mutahi Ngunyi was talking about there, and any attempt to perhaps defy the ICC process, to pull back from the ICC process. What implications would that have for Kenya?
One thing I don't agree with Mutahi Ngunyi is the argument that if they go to The Hague, they will be arrested. I think going to The Hague, you can go for the case and come back without being arrested. But the issue here is that, legally speaking, not legally actually, it's a question of perception. If the perception holds that the reshuffle was basically to give these people an opportunity to have an easy time in terms of compliance in Kenya, I think then that can solidify or harden the approach that the international community will have towards the issue of the cases of Kenya. But let me just add something there, that there is a contradiction on Mutula's position. On one hand, he says he's a man of principle. He stands on, these people going to Hague. On the other, he accepts a lesser or, a different ministry. The problem of that is that my problem with that is this: if he's a man of principles, like any other country in the world, you are operating in a government that you don't agree with their principles. I think Balala and Kilonzo should have resigned a long time ago, and like Mother Karua did. But that is the problem.
Was very gracious about it and said, I'm going to come into environment and I'm going to do my absolute best. Gentlemen, our time is short. A very important final question. The spirit of this new constitution that we have, does this cabinet reshuffle in any way reflect the kind of spirit that we were hoping would be brought on by this new constitution?
I mean, I think people have to come to terms with the fact that political positions, appointments and cabinet and so forth, and ministerial positions are political in nature, and service is secondary to loyalty. I mean, that is a fact in politics. I'm not going to appoint you and then you're not loyal to me and continue to work in a rebellious form.
Service to the nation secondary.
Ultimately, the government, you see, the service to the nation at the secondary level, but at the basic level, this is whose government, is whose administration. So the good things and the bad things are blamed on the chief executive of that government, who is the president, and in this case shared with the prime minister. So regardless of how effective you are, you must factor in discipline and loyalty to the appointing authority. You can't be a rebel and work in a government.
So sycophants will succeed.
Despite the Constitution's provisions.
I think to a great extent we haven't moved towards that spirit of the new Constitution, of appointing people based on their abilities and their their ability to deliver. That means even when we are going to implement the Constitution next year, the first challenge we are going to have is the mental attitude that people have, so that then there will be some bit of disconnect between the letter of the law and the spirit. And I think that is where the problem is here, because you can almost think that when the appointments were done, consideration of service delivery was not actually the first thing. However, I agree with Makali. Whether service delivery is going to be the issue or not, the key thing that we must all accept is that if you are appointed by a certain person, you have a responsibility to remain loyal, and there's something called collective responsibility. When it reaches the time that you don't want to serve them, you resign. That is where now we talk about principle.
Okay. Okay, thank you so much, gentlemen. It's a very interesting discussion. And we're asking you to continue sharing your views on SMS. Our poll question, I'm just trying to pull it up for you to ask it once again. And we're trying to ask you, do you think this cabinet reshuffle puts anyone in a prime position to succeed President Mwai Kibaki? Do start with a yes or a no when you respond, and we'll give you the final results at the close of the show. Just before you go, gentlemen, you've said yes, certainly it's political, but do you think it will be effective in positioning someone to take over as president? Very quickly.
The reshuffle?
Yes.
Not, it's pretty early. I think there's going to be more changes coming, and the effect that we are seeing right now, for example, Balala's departure and Raila, will fizzle out in the next couple of weeks.
Okay.
I think to a great extent on both sides, it's first of all stabilizes the ODM side, but also on the PNU side, I think Uhuru Kenyatta has had an upper hand, and the perception nationally is that this is the guy, because his allies are actually the beneficiary of the reshuffle.
Okay, okay, the SMS number for your thoughts, 2442. Keep them coming in just a moment. I'll be on the other side with more news for you. Who Owns Kenya, of course, is on the way, and sport. Stay with Sunday Live.